Everybody ready? All right, I want to welcome everybody. It's March 20th, 2018. We're at 6:03. At this time, we need approval of the agenda, and we've got a request on the agenda to ask for approval for the bid for the Sun Valley Sewer Project. Tim Ingram as old business number 2, and also a request to add executive session meeting on the March 6, 2018 to the minutes to be approved.
So moved, Chairman.
Motion, we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. It's our pleasure tonight to have Mayor Ed Barber from City of Gray is going to do our invocation pledge and tell us a little bit about his service in this country.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, for the invocation, I'm going to read this is the prayer that we have anytime we have a Marine Corps League meeting. Bow heads. Supreme Commandant, we ask thy blessings upon all here assembled. We pray for guidance in our deliberations, and that we may here exemplify the principle and purposes of our beloved Marine Corps League. We ask thy protection and blessings for all Marines, FMF corpsmen, FMF chaplains who have died in the service of their country, and for all our members, both past and present. Grant that the Marine Corps League may grow and prosper in the humane purposes and principle upon which it is founded. Amen.
Amen.
May I have the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Barber, we'd love to hear a little bit about you.
Okay, as most everybody knows pretty much, I am a Marine. Once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. Basically upon graduation from high school, myself and 4 of my classmates under the buddy system, we joined the Corps, went to boot camp, Parris Island. Our most exciting experience, and we won't go into that story tonight, but anyway, once we got to Beaufort, we missed the last bus going onto the island, but compliments of some nice military policemen, we made it out to the island to begin our training. So, yes. Upon completing the boot camp, like I said, my first duty station was the 2nd Marine Division up at Camp Lejeune. I was assigned to the 10th Marines, which is artillery. My first deployment was to Guantanamo Bay, and this was right after the infamous Bay of Pigs fiasco. So it was a hot situation, needless to say. One night we got the word that every Russian tank they had on the island of Cuba was on the other side of our fence line. So we were all, of course, what they call, the alpha situation. But anyway, we were set and ready to go. Fortunately, nothing ever happened. After doing a tour at Camp Lejeune, I had an opportunity to travel overseas to Okinawa with the 3rd Marine Division. And there again, it was in artillery. And of course, basically the highlight of that, other than getting some culture from, the Pacific battles there on Okinawa, I had 2 uncles that were at the battle. They were in the Army, and they were in Okinawa, and one, he was awarded a Purple Heart while there. But we did that, and we had an opportunity to go to a firing exercise up in Japan at the base of Mount Fuji, and it was cold, they used to say. From there, rotated back to the States, back to Camp Lejeune. In spite of all that paperwork, those being in the service know that I was asked, always list your top 3 duty stations you want. So you go recruit duty in your hometown, that kind of stuff. That's a waste of time. I never got any of those things. But anyway, got back to Camp Lejeune. At that time, I transferred out of artillery into intelligence and became the intelligence chief for the 2nd Battalion, 10th Marines. We went on deployment down to the Dominican Republic back when he was having their little misunderstanding down there. We set up the gun park on one side in front of the hotel. We set up the heliport on the soccer field. It started off, everybody dug them a little hole about 6 inches deep. And then one morning they dropped mortars in, so y'all know what they were doing the rest of that morning. Make sure them holes were a little bit deeper. But we survived it. Got back to Lejeune. This time we were in Vietnam. Matter of fact, when I left Okinawa come back to the States, they had, the first troops were headed there, and there was the rumors were that we were going to turn our ship around, and we were just going to go straight back to Okinawa, grab a bunch of gear, and go with them. But we did. We made it back. But like I say, I got the call to fight for my country once again, so I extended my enlistment long enough to go to Vietnam. From my arrival in the country, I was originally set up right by the air base there at Da Nang. While they were building us a base camp, we moved out to the base camp. It's out at a place called Red Beach near the village of Name. It was, like I say, it was just like those of you been, you know what it was like. Those that just see it on TV, it was basically like TV. I mean, where I was at, I was in the rice paddy section. We didn't have mountains, but you know, and our base camp was built on white sand, so we had to wear sunglasses every day, or we'd go snow blind. But it's just like that. We went wading the rice paddies and stuff like that. Did my tour. I was lucky and came back to the United States and was discharged. And like I say, it's an experience that I would, you know, you can't buy, and I would never trade it. And I appreciate the opportunity to come and share this information with y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Barber. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mayor Barber. We move on to our consent agenda, approval for the minutes. We've had the first Tuesday, March 6, 2018. Number 2, we have loan modification resolution for loan number DWSRF 15-018. That's time extension. Plus, we're going to add the executive session meeting on March 6, 2018. Had an opportunity to look at that. We need approval of this.
So moved, Chairman.
Have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Any more discussion? None. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We move on to our visitor section. Mr. Sunset Harris, would you like to come? You want to talk to us about the Sun Valley Estates?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Board.
Good evening.
I came this afternoon to give you guys a history lesson on that area, but I received a letter just before I got here, and it says that the bid had been awarded, so that saved me a lot of time. I appreciate that. I have one other issue, though, that I need your help with. We are having issues with people dumping trash in the community. I got 2 areas already that I have pinpointed. I talked with Mr. Wendell about it, and we have installed one sign that says no dumping. But I need to know what I can do. Now, I've had the police department to come out there 3 times, and the first 2 times they went through the trash. The 3rd time they wouldn't go through it, and they said they was going to have Public Works to do it, and it never happened. But we really need to do something about that. The neighborhood is really going down because of the trash and the abandoned houses, along with the sewage system. We need to get something done about it.
Any questions for Mr. Harris?
What is how to fix it?
Yeah, we'll make sure that sheriff's notified to maybe beef up some patrols in that area and make sure we're going through it. So if we do find any kind of evidence of who it is, we can try to stop it.
Because if it's trash, they're going to have the name or something. At some point, they're going to slip up
Exactly.
name, envelope, or something that we can hold them accountable that way.
Right. The other thing is, this is my wife, Sandra. Just in case a truck hit me tomorrow and I die, she will fill in for me because we really need to get this done.
Yeah.
Mr. Harris, Commissioner Kitchen, you want to invite him to your 14th?
That's right.
I give them a flyer on the way. And
Yeah, she's going to be
I
working with
was
somebody.
about to say, I'm gonna get with the neighbors. That's why I
Okay.
got that number.
Great.
And we wanna be a part of that because,
Absolutely.
like I said, like my husband said, the neighborhood is really going down because we got a lot of people there They're not homeowners, they are renters.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
And that's the difference.
Right.
Right, oh, yeah.
And that's why a lot of the trash and everything's accumulated. But that's one of, we really gonna try to be a part of this.
Good, thank you, and call that number on there and let them know number of people
And I
and
got
T-shirts
the
and,
ladies' number.
right, you got Vicky's number too, and they'll give you my number too, if you need any
Okay.
assistance from me, just give
I
me a
have
call.
one
Thank
other,
you so much.
I have one other thing.
Sure.
When will this project start?
Reconstruction will be about a month from now, and then probably the 1st of June when we get there, because it'll take 4 or 5 weeks to get the man home, 3 days to get him back.
Okay, I hope that's a good date, because did you guys receive a letter? I sent a letter to each one of the board members during the week. You get it? Okay, so you know how I feel about the
Yes, sir.
project? Okay,
Absolutely. And if you care to come up, later on the citizen comments after we do the bid, feel free. I'll write you down on the.
I'm good with where we are right now, just as
Sure.
long as we can get something started next.
Thank you.
Mr.
very
Chairman, if I may say this too, I want to thank Mr. Harris here at the open meeting. He helped me a lot in obtaining the easements we needed. A number of property owners out there, and this goes back for at least a year. A lot of people lived out of town, and it was hard to get them. There was one guy in France that we had to chase down. Several people in Atlanta, probably half a dozen owners who were just hard to get them to respond, and he helped me with that a lot. And we thought when it got right down to the end of the time to get all the easements and right-of-ways that we were going to have to go to France and find that fellow. But, we decided we wouldn't have to do that. We found him up. But I do want to thank you for your help, Mr. Harris.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Nice to meet your wife, and
Thank you.
we thank you very much.
okay, thank you.
We have another visitor tonight. Miss Michelle Stanford wants to talk about spraying the road.
Hey, how are y'all?
Good.
I'm Michelle Stanford. I know some of you. We walked these halls together years and years ago. We won't say how many that was.
About 15 years ago.
Pardon me?
About 15 years ago.
Yeah, about 15.
For her.
I was waiting
Yeah.
on Mr. Kitchens for her, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not that. No, we're a lot closer than that. But anyway, you may not know that I'm a former educator, and I'm now a certified health coach. And I've written a book called Informed Consent: Critical Truths That You Need to Know for Your Health and the Health of Future Generations. And the glyphosate and the ingredients in what's being sprayed on the roads is disastrous for our health. I don't know whether or not you realize or think about how often and how many people you know who are chronically ill with kidney disease or diabetes or all these other diseases. If you would like, I can read you some statistics on glyphosate and the active ingredient in those pesticides and what they do to our body. In 2015, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, which is a department of the World Health Organization, declared that glyphosate was a probable human carcinogen. It's likely to cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and other hematopoietic cancers like leukemia and multiple myeloma. As well, the glyphosate is a chelator, and a chelator it binds with minerals and heavy metals and things like that in the body. And so that process, when it gets in our bodies, it causes this cascade of it can cause 14 different processes to happen that cause tumor formation, kidney problems, pancreatic problems, all these other kinds of problems. Glyphosate causes all of those, not just one or two, but all 14 altogether. Additionally, the surfactants, if you are familiar with what a surfactant is, it's what causes the, it's an inert ingredient that actually drives, when you spray glyphosate onto a plant, it actually drives the glyphosate into the plant. But it also does the same thing to our bodies. It drives the glyphosate when we inhale it. It's in our air, it's in the water, it gets in the groundwater, it's in the surface water, it gets on the plants, it's in what we eat. We won't go there, but just talking about what the spraying the sides of the road, but it can't be washed off. And so it's there, it's in the plants. And our bodies are just completely overloaded with chemicals. In 2017, the CDC put out a report where they identified 308 different chemicals in urine samples. So the glyphosate, when you spray it on the side of the road, it's getting into the groundwater. 2, it's in the air. And I just want to know why we can't just mow the side of the road rather than spray poisons on our community, and what we can do going forward as a community to become more aware of the things that we do that are harmful to us and our health.
Sure. Any questions or comments from the board? Ms. Stanford? I didn't, until you hear all these statistics and stuff and not really knowing, not knowing what we're using, it does open your eyes considerably.
Yes. Get the book.
I'm proud of your book. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I am. It's a lot of work.
But if there's no questions, like I said, we will look into it. And we appreciate your concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to new business. New business, we got an overview of our FY 2016 audit and a review of our FY 2017 audit. We have David Irwin with partner Malden Jenkins and Justin Johnson also who's going to present this.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Irwin. I'm the Malden Jenkins. I was the partner who oversaw this year's audit and the 2016 audit of the county's financial statements. Justin Johnson was the senior manager on the job. Again, he was the lead dog out here during the audit field work. And again, we appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all to discuss the results, not only of the 2017 audit, but 2016 audit as well. But before I get started, Mr. Mayor, I just want to say I appreciated your presentation, and I want to thank you for your service to our country. My brother's actually a Marine, so he would have loved to have been here to hear your presentation. So Marine Corps holds a special place in my family's hearts, and again, just thank you. That being said, don't feel sorry for him. He's stationed in Hawaii right now. He's living the good life. In addition to the financial statements, I believe that you are also given something we call our auditor's discussion analysis. This document is an internal document that we prepare solely for your benefit. It gives you some general information on who we are as a firm. It gives you a synopsis of some accounting standards that will be coming, that will be implemented in the upcoming years, and also summarizes what I'll be discussing with you all here this evening. That being said, for the most part, I'm going to briefly walk you through the financial statements. So you have those readily available. That'd be great. The financial statements themselves are the responsibility of county's management and members of the board. As your external auditor, our responsibility is to issue an opinion on these statements. Now, we conduct our audit in accordance with governmental auditing standards and generally accepted auditing standards. And I'm happy to say that we're issuing a clean or unmodified opinion, not only on the 2017 report, but on the 2016 report as well. This is what you want. What this means is, in our opinion, the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects, and of course, generally accepted accounting principles. In addition to the clean opinion, we did have an audit findings report to you all this year. And you know what I mean by that? An audit finding, in the simplest term, is when we find a deficiency in internal control over financial reporting. In other words, proper internal controls were not in place that would have either prevented a misstatement from occurring or would have detected a misstatement on a timely manner, in a timely basis. And these errors, if they're not corrected, could result in the financial statements being materially misstated or materially incorrect. Again, we had no audit findings this year, so congratulations to you all on that. It's always nice to be able to come up to a council meeting or a board meeting and tell the board that we're issuing a clean opinion with no audit findings. That's what you want. And again, I think that is very much a representation of the hard work done by your staff from the top down. You all have a good team here. Jason and Levita, they do a great job. They're proactive, not reactive. Levita calls us all the time during the year if a question comes up that she has, because she wants to make sure things are addressed the first time and it's addressed correctly. She doesn't want the problems or the questions to build up until we get out here. And that constant communication throughout the year, it really results in an efficient and timely audit with no surprises. So nobody likes surprises when it comes to your audit. So again, we appreciate her and her staff's hard work this year. Now for a brief overview of the financial statements. After our opinion, is something called a management discussion analysis. This begins on page 4 of your financial statements. It's 10 or so pages long. If you read only one section of this financial report, I strongly encourage you to read the MD&A. This is written by management. Does a really good job of summarizing the basic financial statements and providing you all an overview of the financial activities for the year. In addition, there's quite a bit of comparative information in this MD&A, meaning that there's financial activity disclosed for not only 2017, but for 2016 as well. So if you look at pages 7 and 8 of your financial statements, you'll see that comparative activity. And to me, as a reader, that's very valuable to see the current year and prior year next to each other. You know, to me, the numbers mean a lot more when you have the prior year numbers to compare it to. So again, if you can, take the time and read through the MD&A, your financial statements. After the MD&A, all the county's basic financial statements are broken up into 3 components. If you all would turn to page 14 of your financial statements, you'll see the first component, which is the government-wide financial statements again. Now, these statements provide a broad view of the county's operations in a manner similar to what you would see in a private sector business. All the funds of the county are broken up into two columns, either your governmental activities or your business type activities. There's also a column for your discretely represented component unit, which is the Jones County Board of Health. Again, page 14 is the statement of net position, otherwise known as the balance sheet. As of August 31st, the county had total assets and deferred outflows of resources of around $54.6 million. That's an increase of around $600,000 compared to 2016. The majority of your assets are your capital assets, net of accumulated depreciation. That was around $42.3 million this year. And what I mean by capital assets, that's the roads, your infrastructure, your buildings, your machinery and equipment, your furniture and fixtures. So again, when you calculate all that up, no surprise, the majority of your assets are your capital assets. The county had total liabilities and deferred inflows of resources of $13.6 million this year. That's a decrease of around $100,000 compared to prior years. So your assets increased by around $600,000 and your liabilities decreased by $100,000. Of your total liabilities, around 10.6 of that 13.6 are classified as long-term liabilities, meaning these are liabilities that you owe, but you won't owe those in the upcoming year. These are liabilities that are owed to anywhere between 2 to 15 to 20 years from now, depending on your debt. The county ended the year with a net position of around $41 million. And that's shown halfway down on page 15. This is an increase around $872,000 compared to prior year. The details of this increase are shown on the statement of activities, which is on pages 16 and 17. Statement of activities is commonly referred to as the income statement. Like the statement of net position, the activities on the statement of activities are classified into 1 of 2 categories. You got your governmental activities and your business type activities. Again, also included is your component unit, which is the Jones County Board of Health. Your revenues are classified as your program revenues or general revenues. Your program revenues, that's your charges for services, your operating grants, your capital grants. Your general revenues, that's your property taxes, your sales taxes. Your expenses are classified by function. Your general government, public safety, health and welfare, culture and recreation. Second component of the county's financial statements, that begins on page 18. That's your fund level financial statements. This component of your financial statements focuses on the individual funds of the county. So it focuses on the activities in a lot more detail than that of the government-wide financial statements. And when you think about your funds of your county, the fund that is of primary interest to you all is your general fund. And that's the bread and butter of this operation. And the reason for that is the general fund that accounts for the majority of the revenues received and the funds expended for the county. Again, pages 18 and 19 are the governmental funds balance sheet. The general fund ended the year with total assets of around $6.9 million and total liabilities and deferred inflows of resources of around $1.1 million. And that resulted in an ending fund balance for the general fund of around $5.7 million. And that's an increase of a little over $1 million compared to 2016. So, and one thing to keep in mind, fund balance, that's not the amount of money that you have in the form of cash on hand at year end to spend as you see fit. Fund balance is merely the difference between assets and liabilities, only a portion of which is cash on hand. Another thing to keep in mind is that on average, you all incur expenditures in your general fund of around $1.3 million per month. So, it's good to see that as of August 31st, you all have a strong fund balance to get you through those months of September through November when your revenues are typically down, before your property taxes come in. The other significant fund shown on this page is your capital projects fund from your 2015 SPLOST. This fund accounts for the transactions of your capital assets and your construction of your capital projects. The capital projects fund had an ending fund balance of $1.3 million, which is an increase of around $215,000 compared to prior year. Now, all the other governmental funds, none of which were large enough to warrant them being separately disclosed in your financial statements, so they're combined under the non-major governmental funds heading. If you want to see the activity of those individual funds, those are disclosed separately in the back of the document, beginning on page 65. If you all turn to page 20, you'll see the statement of revenues, expenditures, and change in fund balance, otherwise known as the income statement for your governmental funds. Total revenues for the general fund were around $18 million this year. That's pretty comparable to prior year, 2016. I think it's around $75,000 higher. As you would expect, the majority of your revenues derive from taxes. That total around $15.2 million. A couple of other significant financial revenue sources worth mentioning. You all had charges for services of around $1.2 million and intergovernmental revenue of around $983,000 for the year. Midway down that page, page 20, you'll see the expenditures for the year. That total around $16.7 million. That's a decrease of around $568,000 compared to 2016. So while your revenues were flat, they increased a little bit, around $75,000. You all had a pretty significant decrease in your expenditures, around $668,000. So that's always good to see. Once again, when you look at your expenditures, no surprise, major expenditure here at your public safety. That amounted to the tune of around $5.5 million. You also had around $4 million in general governmental expenditures and around $3.6 million in public works expenditures. If you turn to page 21, you'll see the increase in fund balance of $1 million in your general fund that I talked about earlier, which again resulted in the ending fund balance of the general fund of around $5.7 million for the year. One other fund I want to briefly mention is the Water and Sewer Fund. That is the sole business type activity that you all have. If you'll turn to page 26 and 27, you'll see the balance sheet for this fund. And the Water Sewer Fund, again, is to account for activities in a manner similar to what you would see in a private sector business. The goal is to generate sufficient operating revenues to cover your operating expenditures. In other words, we want that fund to be self-sufficient. If you look at your income statement, well, let me first go back to the balance sheet. Water Sewer Fund had ended the year with assets around $14.5 million, again, the majority of which are your capital assets. You had liabilities around $1.6 million, which resulted in ending net position of the Water and Sewer Fund of $13 million for the year. The income statement for the Water Sewer Fund is shown on page 28. It did have an operating loss this year of approximately $107,000. That's really nothing to worry about. The operating loss has been higher in previous years, so actually this operating loss has come down. When you think loss, you automatically kind of think, no, that's bad. But one thing to keep in mind when you're looking at your operating loss of $107,000, included in that loss is depreciation expense on your capital assets. And depreciation expense is a non-cash item. So you had depreciation expense of $667,000 for the year. Again, we're just writing down the net book value of your capital assets. That's a non-cash item. You didn't write a check for $667,000 for depreciation. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're looking at this operating loss. So if you back off the depreciation expense from your operating loss, you all generated positive operating cash flows, which again is the definition of enterprise fund. That's what you want to see. So your positive operating cash flows for the Water Sewer Fund this year amounted to around $767,000. So again, operating loss doesn't really tell the whole story. You have to look into it a little bit more to really get a feel for how well this fund did this year. When you add back your non-operating expenses, your capital contributions, and your transfers that you all had to the other funds, it ended the year relatively flat. I think your net position for your Water Sewer Fund decreased $22,000. So again, a flat year, but that's nothing to be concerned about. I would deem that to be a success. So, the third and final component of the financial statements are your footnotes of the financial statements. They provide some great. They help support the detail of the schedules. And explain what these numbers come from and what's involved in these numbers, what these numbers consist of. There really weren't any major changes this year to the footnotes, so I won't go into those in any detail unless anybody has any specific questions. Again, there's quite a bit of information in this financial report. What I've tried to do tonight is just give you a brief overview of what I think is of most importance to you all. That being said, if there's a question that you all have on something that I didn't cover, I'll be happy to address those. Again, just to follow up and conclude, I really feel like this year's audit went extremely well. I want to thank your staff for a job well done. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to be of service to you all and look forward to working in the future.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any questions from Ms. Irvin?
No questions. I do have a comment though. Thank y'all for timely responses every year and getting on it so quick and getting back to us with a full report. But I also want to say thank you to Levita and our finance staff. People don't understand with the small staff we have what they do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And we absolutely would not be where we are today without them. And we can't thank them enough for what they do. So thank you, Levita, for keeping us on the right track. My preacher always says that whenever I disagree with the Bible, one of us is always wrong. And I feel the same way with Levita when I talk about finances. So
I do too sometimes.
if I ever disagree with it, one of us is always wrong.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you very much. Moving on with our new business tonight, we got the joint GTIB. That's the Georgia Transportation Infrastructure Bank grant application, industrial rail spur. Mr. Risner, you taking care of this?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Sometime back, a month or so ago, I think we talked here about the GTIB grant that's available. It's through the State Road and Tollway Authority. I think at that time we talked about maybe either having the asking the development authority to apply for the rail spur there. And so we've talked with the development authority, kind of in conversation with them, and we thought it might be good to put the name of both the Board of Commissioners and the development authority on the application, a joint application. We thought that might carry a little more weight in the evaluation process there. We have all the information we need on the rail spur from this T-Splosh go round and the one before, and Tim's also got some sketches and that type of thing that we can use on that. So as best I can tell, there's no match requirement on GTIB, but they do give your application more weight, or they. The more match you have, the more favorably they look on your application. But we could certainly. There's a $250 application fee. If the board is so inclined, we could. I think the development authority was willing to split that application fee with us, $125. We don't have to put down anything as a match, I suppose, and just see if we could get funding for that. It is included on the T-Splosh list, so that's another opportunity to get it funded. Just one thing to think a little bit about, and I've talked to Commissioner Pitt some about this, and talked with Greg Boyke some at the Regional Commission about this. If we go forward with the application and the project gets funded through GTIB, then and T-Splosh passes in May, then this project would be paid through GTIB and not T-Splosh. That T-Splosh money, the is $1,693,500. That money would, as I understand it, just kind of go back into the T-Splosh pot of money to cover overages on other projects or that kind of thing on the regional project list. So that's I don't know that should necessarily be a deterrent from applying for it. Just wanted you to all be aware of that. So if the board's so inclined, I'd be happy to work with the development authority to prepare a GTIB application in the amount of $1,693,500 for the industrial park rail spur.
Any questions from Mr. Risner on this?
If it's approved by GTIB and we don't, and the T-Splosh passes and that money goes back to the main pot of money, would we still be if all the projects when they're ended, would we still get a portion of that as a county? The separate portion that we get outside of that. So that bigger pot of money, we would still get some percentage of it, not the 1.6, but if we got our divvy as a county based on population and size. road mileage.
I think it won't have any impact on the local share portion.
Okay.
I think
Even at the end of the day, when all the projects are said and done, and
I'd have to check. I'm not sure how that works.
Somebody's gonna have some money in
would
the
that
bank if it's left
1.6
over.
million just sit in a fund, and then at the end of all the projects are done, there's 1.6 million, they never split it up?
No, I feel certain they find something to do with it.
We want to know what we can do with it.
Yeah. I think what they don't do is they don't come back to us and say, okay, you didn't spend your 1.6 million on this project.
Another project.
Right.
Even if we consider that project complete, we can't move it to
Probably
like
not.
regular SPOS.
Probably not.
Any other questions?
I think we still need to.
Well, we need a permission, we need a motion granting Mr. Risner the authority to go forward.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second, any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? 3-1. All right. Going further, I think, Mr. Risner, this here is also approval to declare old library furniture as surplus.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Over at the library, they've cleaned out a lot of things there in anticipation of the construction project getting started there. And what they've got left is a good many desks and chairs and office furniture type things. There is a kind of a large conference room table and chairs to go with that, a couple chandeliers that are in there. And so the library board has talked recently about disposing of those items and how we go about disposing of them and that type of thing. We've talked about auctioning them off and then kind of tried to figure out how exactly to administer that. I met on Friday with Bo Benton from LW Benton Auction Company, and we took a look at everything that's in there. The library staff has gone through and tagged everything that needs to be disposed of. I don't have a list for you of all those things. It's all the shelving remains, and but it's mostly the tables and chairs that you see there. Kind of the one sort of unusual thing, there's a vacuum system that was built into that library when it was constructed years and years ago. One of those things where you plug it into the wall and vacuum. But other than that, there's just some assorted furniture there. Bo Benton tells me that they can package things in a way where they'll generate the most money. They're willing to come in and take everything out of the library, take it down to their warehouse, and which is very beneficial to us because it gets it all out of the way. And it would be an online only auction, so we don't have to worry about taking people over to the library and showing them around, showing them what's available and that type of thing. So I think logistically it works well for us to do it this way. One thing that the library board has requested is for the money from the sale to kind of come back to the library project to help with some additional furnishings. We do have money for FF&E in the project budget, but I think the board is hopeful that the money can come back to them, and I think that would be the board's decision to decide how they want to allocate money from that sale. So that's one thing that the board might want to consider addressing as part of a motion. But my recommendation would be for the board to declare the old library furniture as surplus, and we'll dispose of it in an auction.
Any questions, Mr. Risner?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add to that motion to give that money to the library. The money that's from the proceeds of the auction.
Okay, so we have a
Commissioner, it may be, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Robinson, the money would need to come back to the county first, I think. And then if the board votes to give it back as the motion contemplates, then it could go back, but it would need to come back into the general fund first.
Sure.
Instead of them just keeping it.
Sure. Okay. Well, we have the motion. We have a second.
Second.
All right. Any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Well, ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Risner. Number 4 on our new business, we have approved revised zero tolerance drug and alcohol testing policy. Is you again, Mr. Resnick? Who's handling this one?
I can if you want.
Oh, sure.
We approved the zero tolerance policy back in 2016, and this is a revision to it because of expanded opiate drug federal enforcement. And so this is just because of the transit system that we do operate. This policy is required, and my recommendation would be to approve the amendment.
Any questions from Ms. Margie on that? If not, I need a motion for approval.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I need a second. 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 Any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much, Ms. Margie. Number 5, we've got right-of-way deed for Walter and Mike Green. Mr. Childs?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bert King prepared these deeds, and he was up here a little bit earlier. And this goes back, Chairman and Board, to when we were acquiring the rights of way for the bypass. And Mr. Walter Green lives out there on Green Settlement Road, or right off of it on Oliver Green Road. Back in 2012, when we were getting that right of way, of course, people will pay different sums of money depending on how much land was taken. And part of what they agreed to do was to take less money. And when parts of Green Settlement Road and Oliver Green Road were taken, they are inaccessible now, basically. You can't get to them. So what they wanted and what the county agreed to do back then was, once the bypass was completed, that land, some of it, which had been in their family anyway, would go back to them. It's basically landlocked. It's useless to anybody except them. But so we've got one deed to Mr. Walter Green, and this is similar to what we did on Upper River Road last month with the land down by the restaurant, and one to his son, Mr. Michael Green. So if the board approves, I think one of them's 2-point-something acres, and I think the other one is about the same amount. But that, anyway, it's part of an agreement we had with them going back to 2012, so we don't have a lot of choice but to honor that.
Absolutely.
Because their consideration was doing what they did, so now this is the quote for the quid's already been paid.
Okay. Any questions for Attorney Child? If none, I need a motion. So moved.
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, if you would sign these, then we can get them attested and notarized, and Ms. Margie can do that tomorrow. Margie, if you'd let Bert know we've got these up here. Yep.
I need to have copies in.
Yeah. I'll wait just a minute. That's it. Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Moving on, we also have a deed for Joseph Crane. Attorney Childs, this is.
That one, Mr. King asked to be taken off the agenda for tonight.
Okay, taking it off. Okay, we move on to old business tonight. We have water projects. Mr. Ingram?
Again, just our first one we discussed a few minutes ago is we run into a severe groundwater issue at Masseyville. We're doing some removing some bad soil, and then we'll need the county to bring in some good dirt, which John says he has plenty of, in a French drain system. And Jason has a change order for $6,000 to cover that work. And we have contingency funds to cover it in the GFA project. Next project, as we discussed earlier, the Highway 49 booster station. We have a recommendation of award, to execute a change order to go forward with Sam Hall and Sons at the new site. The funding, $112,575. 40 is going to come from GFA contingency, and then 72 out of the construction account to give us our $326,895.
Any questions from Mr. Ingram? Is there any action we need to take at the board? Just a report, okay?
All right, and our last one I do need you to take action on is the we have a letter where we're recommending award of the Sun Valley Sewer Project to Piles Plumbing and Utility Contractors. The original bid project would be awarded for $1,572,727. Upon approval of a deductive change order for the $398,313.90, which would have a revised contract amount of $1,174,413.91. The remaining funds we need that was budgeted in CDBG and the GFA will come out of contingencies, GFA contingencies.
Any question, Ms. Ingram, on that?
Tim, in this letter, you said that 15 homes will have grinder pumps.
Yes, sir.
Who pays for those pumps?
They're part of the project. And the county actually does the maintenance like we do in Hampton Lakes.
Who replaces them?
The county does. There'll be 2 extras provided in the contract to the county when they're needed.
Any more questions? None, I need a motion to go forward with this.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? 3-1. Department head tonight. Mr. Redner, you don't need department head in there tonight?
I may be. I've got.
He's the head man.
I've got one thing I was going to talk with the board about, Mr. Chairman. I mentioned Bo Benton and the auction company earlier. You may recall at the last meeting, maybe it was the meeting before that, that we talked about surplusing some water supplies, some pipe, valves, and that type of thing. So we've got that out for bid now. As I was putting all that together, I'm not sure how we would administer it if somebody said, okay, we got 7 of a particular type of valve. Somebody comes and says, hey, I'll give you $20 a piece for 4 of them. Somebody else comes back and says, I'll give you $18 a piece for all 7 of them. How do you pick between those two? And so I can just kind of foresee some challenges when it comes to administering that whole thing. When I was talking to Bo Benton about the auction of the furniture there at the library, I asked him if it'd be possible to also auction off pipe and valves and that type of thing. He said they have done some of that kind of stuff before, just small things. They've conducted auctions for DOT and so forth. I tend to think we might have better luck doing it that way. It'd be a lot easier to administer, and it's still a process where you're selling it to the highest bidder. So I don't know. I hadn't had a chance to talk with Frank about this. I don't know if tonight the board can kind of give me the okay, or if there's a consensus that we could withdraw that bid process and move forward with an auction process instead, or what we would need to make that change, assuming y'all are okay with it.
If the board wants to do it, there's nothing wrong with it, as long as we advertise it, give the public, whoever wants to have a chance to buy something, let them know, and whether it's auction or however you want to do it, the board can do it either way. The point is, as long as we give everybody a chance to participate in buying if they want to be involved in it, either way.
Any input or ideas on this?
I think it's a better route to go with the auction company than it is to doing it in-house for just the reasons he said that, we don't want to be haggling with people over a couple of valves and pipes.
You ever tie up a long time
Sure.
trying to sell it piece by piece?
All right, well, I need a motion for the board to make these changes and allow Mr. Risner to change directions.
I think the motion would be to withdraw the motion to go out for bid on it, or go out for, how do we have it worded?
I mean, I guess the motion before would have been to declare surplus and go out for bid on those items. Okay. Maybe that's broad enough to cover this.
So we withdraw the to go out on, to bid, and then to authorize them to change that over to an auction style.
That sounds good.
But still deemed surplus and disposed of properly.
You get that, Mr. Martin?
I'm gonna have to listen, but that's okay.
You get all that stuttering and this and that in it.
All right, well, we have a motion. Ms. Margie's gonna straighten out a little later. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have 2 seconds. No more discussion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
At least I had a motion. I'm gonna second my motion, Chairman. Come on, give me a little credit here.
Anything else, Mr. Rudner?
I just thought of something else, if I could share real quick.
Sure.
We had a meeting last night. You may recall a number of months ago, 6 or 8 months ago, we were awarded funds from the ACCG Civic Affairs Foundation to start a program called GCAPS, Georgia Civic Awareness Program for Students. And it's a program that ACCG sponsors and encourages, where you're able to select a group of high school students and put them through a probably 9-month program to expose them to county government, expose them to state government. We were given a startup grant of $2,500, and so we've got that as kind of seed money to start our program. We had a good discussion last night with a little group that I kind of threw together, and so I'm excited about that, and more to come on that soon. But just wanted to let you know we've got that program started, and I think there'll probably be an announcement at the ACCG conference in Savannah about us receiving the grant and getting our program started. So we're aiming to start it in the fall once the school year resumes in the fall.
Great. We got a young lady from Regional Commission. We didn't miss anything, did we?
I don't think so.
Okay. Make sure we got to look at it. I don't think we missed anything. We're great. All right. We have no more department heads. Who wants to start tonight? Mr. Kitchen? Commissioner comment?
The only thing I have, and I passed some out, there should be hanging around all of the walls on Facebook and all social media about our Community Pride Cleanup April 14th. Just want to keep reminding people that we need team captains and volunteers for your areas. There's a number on here, the 986-8261. Call and make sure you get your name and shirt size to them to get our t-shirts, get your t-shirts, and plan to do the cleanup. We want to make it a huge annual event and clean up our community and make everybody as proud of our community as we are. So there'll be more coming out on it. We're getting close to the sign-up date closing out because we've got to have time enough to get them to the printers and get all the t-shirts printed. So we've probably got another week and a half before we'll have to close out the sign-ups. But we'll promote it more. Hope everybody that can participate will participate. Thank you.
Mr. Pitt?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I've mentioned to the board, and Jason did reach out to the regional commission and host some town hall meetings about the T-Splosh. So we have the dates is set for April the 19th and May the 3rd at 6 o'clock at the W-Dot Civic Center. We just want to make sure that people are well informed about T-Splosh, what it is. If you have questions, this would be a perfect time for you to ask before you go to the polls and vote in the month of May. So we just want people to be informed so they can make an informed decision. The other item that I have, I've run it by the board. I want to do a groundbreaking for the inclusive playground. Right now we're looking at Monday, March the 26th at 6:30 at the Highway 18 Recreation Center to do the groundbreaking. I think pretty much everything's been approved. I think the equipment has been ordered. So do a groundbreaking, and hopefully within the next 2 months or so, we'll be ready to go start playing on the new playground. The third item that I have was I was going to ask Jason about the bus that's in the front yard. I know the 4-H they're using one. Can maybe the senior center, can they use the bus? Okay.
That's exactly who I've talked with about maybe using this other one. We're waiting on. I've talked with DOT. I guess it was last summer, maybe fall. We purchased the one bus. I think maybe $3,500, $4,500 from GDOT, and they're still in very good condition. It's got a lift gate on it and that type of thing. 4-H has just started using the one. We got that where they're able to use that, and I've talked with Ann Carter over at the senior center about the other bus. She said that they have a need on a couple of accounts. One, they have a 15 passenger van now. She said many times they have more than 15 that want to go on their trips. And so that they need additional bus space in that regard. And then they also, some of the seniors aren't able to crawl up into the 15 passenger vans. And so they're excited about the prospect of getting a van like that they can get into easier. So
Great, because
waiting on the transfer paperwork back from DOT on this second one out here.
good, because just I've got several phone calls about it. So I mean, we have one, so it'd be great if they could use it. And then the last one I got is for the chairman, your fitness tracker. How did it work?
I want to let you know, outside of that blue watch getting me a lot of passes from people I didn't need to get passes from, it's accurate.
So it worked?
Well, the passes are the one.
No.
I think the baby
I'm hoping to watch.
I think the baby blues will set up. I have had 2 passes I really didn't need, but I will mention it is accurate.
It
I
is,
did
okay.
try it. I left my house around the rec complex and back one day, and it was exactly 7 miles, and it registered exactly 7 miles.
How about that?
I did not stop. I did it the whole way.
Yeah, I know you did.
And I challenged the other board to
I know you
walk
did.
or do something with me, you know.
Would it be 7 miles if you did stop?
I don't care how you do it. It's still 7 miles.
So good. I'm just glad to know that you did have a chance to use it. And it is accurate.
It is
so
accurate.
that if we
I tested on accurate. It is accurate.
so if we do decide to, give them as a reward for our employees to make healthy choices, then we know we're giving them something that's good, that's going to be accurate, and something that works. So thank you for wearing it.
But I would suggest, the
Different
color
color.
selection. I know Mr. Tommy said that maybe pink or somebody said pink. They didn't have it at the time, so I got the baby blue, and it's. I got 2 compliments on it I really didn't need.
All right.
But it is very accurate. I can attest to that.
Thank you for taking one for the team. All right. Taking one for the team.
Mr. Robinson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to commend the finance department. This is my 10th year, and I've seen Lavita and her crew do what they do over and over, and it's amazing. It truly is. I really do appreciate them. That's all I got.
Well, thank you very much. I had an opportunity this week to sit down and talk with Chuck Gibson and Ed Barbie about having a joint board meeting, which I think is the 24th. I think Debbie was instrumental on this one. Something we've had in the past. Our next meeting, I've got a work session I'd like for the board and the community to come together with some ideas that we can work together between the city, Board of Education, and the county, of possibly venturing on some project, whether it be buying in bulk with collaboration between the 3, or any ideas we can where we work together in the future to help us all. And I'd like to invite everybody to the work session. Like I said, it would be April 3rd, isn't it, Ms. Martin?
That's right.
It's first Monday in April. A work session to do. We'd love ideas.
First Monday, first Tuesday.
Tuesday.
First Tuesday.
First Tuesday. What did I say? Monday? First Tuesday.
What time?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
That way we can have some ideas, and then the 24th we're going to meet at Tri-County. Mr. Alan Childs said that he would be glad to stand up and handle the joint board meeting, so we can come together and discuss ideas where we can work together in the future, whether it be economic development or sharing in cost on projects or different ideas. I think the school board's looking at going to propane buses, and they're going to be having to put in a propane fueling station, and it might be down the road that the county or city might want to look into the propane option also. So with that being said, maybe we can share the future use of it. So just get your thinking caps on, and maybe we can come up with some good ideas.
What's the time of that one, Chairman?
I'm sorry?
The 24th at what time?
24th at 6 o'clock, I think is what we've got it.
Yes.
April 24th.
That's at Tri-County. And because I think each party will have a quorum of, Ms. Margie, I think you will have to come, and won't we have to have Ms. Margie there? For the quorum be present?
Yes. Need to be there.
Okay.
What time?
At 6.
And we do appreciate finance very much, and as we do with all the departments, job well done. So this budget did come in, and Look good. Anything else for anybody? We got citizens. Any citizens like to come forward and speak? Come on forward.
Mr. Chairman, Board, I appreciate you guys going ahead and wrapping this up for me. No longer are we vacillating over what we should be doing about the project. I know it's going to go ahead now. And Mr. Ingram, how often should I call you a week to see where you're at?
We'll give me an email and we'll just stick in the loop. That'd be simple.
I'll do that. And I can do that tonight. I'll send you my email address.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for all your help. Anyone else? Ms. Marty, we got litigation, I mean, not litigation, but the land acquisition on,
We have two litigation.
Litigation does not need to take place.
Oh, okay, okay.
do we have land acquisition we need to speak about tonight?
Mr. Chairman, we can take that one off too.
We can take it off? Okay, so we won't have executive session tonight, so. All right. We're gonna finish before midnight, as Mr. Thomas said. Mr. Pitts, we need your help.
Make a motion that we adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.